2.
It says we're live.
Should be live.
It says we're live.
Yeah, we're live. Hello. This is a bit of a outdated meme now because there are 2 ranty boys on this stream tonight.
Good job.
Welcome to VKH Live. I still like it. I'm proud of myself. I don't make memes that often. I'm
I
still
wish
gonna
it
use
said
it.
2 ranty boys.
Well, you don't have a chibi Winona made
I
yet.
can make my own.
Yeah,
I can draw my own.
and then we'll start this after hours an hour and a half late too. Man.
I mean, that's not my fault.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to VKH Live. I'm your host. After hours. We need to underscore this is after hours because there will be a bit of background music, background noise. Winona is moving and stuff, and I'm cooking things. So I checked my fridge and realized nothing is cooked. So I'm going to be multitasking a little bit, but we're doing just a silly rant here, and then we're probably just going to talk about whatever we want. Winona, do you think you could make us?
I can make
at
anything.
some point, like, and this is the lowest priority, like, this is priority Z, just, or like when you get bored and you're making in between, like making a couple memes or something, can you make us like a background for after hours that's like something to do with like happy hour or like a bar or like a chill Starbucks at 10 p.m. or something?
Probably the chill Starbucks at 10 p.m. because
Or
that's
like a
the
dive
only thing
bar
I've
at 4
visited.
a.m., I guess is what I'm thinking.
Because I've been to a dive bar at 4 a.m. I'll try.
Like a Starbucks at 10 p.m., but just sadder. just dull the filters you use. Like,
Wait, do you want that as a background for our after hours?
yeah, I'm getting kind of tired of.
Note taken.
Well, I mean, it's not tired. I have no official format for the after hours.
Just like a closed cafe with dope filters.
Every idea that I have for this stream has, well, a lot of them have sort of originated from after hours to a degree. I put chat on the screen for the first time in after hours, just because like my after hours screen that I had looked like garbage back in the day, but I started beautifying it once people started spreading the damn secret.
I'm mad that you say back in the day, like it was like years and years ago, but it wasn't.
Winona, I checked our analytics.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me check the updated one, so you can understand how much life I've lived on this channel. So you can understand why it'll feel like years ago.
I'm sure it feels like years ago, but I bet it's not.
I think it might equate to years ago, actually. Like, what if we're gonna do some quick maths here, okay?
Quick maths.
Yeah, so if I go from the beginning of the year, we started in February, nothing happened, up till February. I have streamed, I need to find my total video length, I think. Can I do that? I thought I could do that. I've spent hundreds of hours on this channel is my point. And if you split that out like they were like 8-hour work weeks, like it would be like it would be years. I'm pretty sure it'd be years at this point. But I don't mind. I just remember, you just reminded me because I was looking at it and like or I was looking at my analytics and then I started doing math in my head. I was like, oh God, where did the time go?
Lauren says it's been a long time in dog years.
Oh yeah, I guess that's the slick educated comeback, I guess. You know how to do the math for the dog ears.
Anywho, you got metal music. The definition from Wikipedia up on the screen here.
Yeah. Okay. So, the thing so I never got to like make a proper rant about this, and I figured now would be a good time. I brought it up a few times, but I think it's time to bring it up, put a bullet in its head, and then put it back 6 feet under. And that is that online, when it comes to classifying genres and subgenres, everyone sucks at it way more than I thought they did, and that most people probably think they do. Um, I don't know. I had this like idea that there was like a small little sect of hipsters that were like had some sacred holy scrolls that they were updating as new genres came into effect. So like when deathcore came out, they understood where to put it in the hierarchy, you know. And it's like, no, everybody's playing Calvin Ball with this shit, and usually everything just works out. But when it came to progressive metal and researching it for and progressive rock really and researching it for the v-kei crash course, because we gave brief genre definitions of genres, that music genres, like for the sounds that you might expect to hear from v-kei. I was beyond frustrated by some of these things. So this is like a bit of a warm up to that. First of all, you search metal music, it redirects to heavy metal music. Do you have a problem with that, Winona? I feel like I should have a problem with that.
I feel like we've kind of just accepted it as it comes, because
Yeah, but
how
it's
do I
like
put
I
this?
always remembered like I grew up in some of the first metal that I heard was Thousand Foot Crutch, and it was on
Right.
my iPod Nano or whatever as like metal music.
iPod Nano.
And then
I
I
had
always
one of
thought of
those.
heavy metal quintessentially as Slipknot, you know, like among other things, but they would be in the heavy metal side, and their music was often in the heavy metal genre on my iPod Mini or whatever it was I had.
There's no definitions to anything now, Jeff. I think that's kind of what we established kind of last night, where we were talking about,
Yeah, but
we're last after hours. We're just like,
that's
I
not
know
an
it's not.
open and shut conclusion. So, or that's not a foregone conclusion. There's people that are trying to preserve the definitions we had. I think this is a good when it comes to properly naming music. I'm a full on right wing conservative, and only in this aspect.
No, that makes sense because we do need genres. Otherwise, it's a mess of things. But I think we've accepted like the metal music that we're getting now, because otherwise, like, would we be getting metal music? I mean, like,
I mean, things
Genkyo
polarized,
Shirake
but
is coming up, and
I think things polarized in general in terms of things becoming super pop or super ridiculously heavy. But I would still look at Lynch on average, and if I still had that metal definition or colloquialism, I would still probably consider Lynch to fall into the metal as opposed to the heavy metal. Alternative metal kind of did the postmodern thing where it was like, well, aren't they both alternative metal? And so we lost the grasp on exactly what it was that was heavy about heavy metal, because alternative metal was like came in and threw a bunch of spices into the soup, so to speak. So I guess that's where it comes from. But I mean, these websites they just kind of like rolled over with it, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, let's go to progressive metal. So right off the bat, it says at the top this article has multiple issues. I agree.
progressive metal is the most unhelpful genre.
Needs
Yeah.
additional citations for verification. That was brought up back in November 2007. The article possibly contains original research. That was brought up in October 2008. So I guess that's the last time this article was checked or anything. Here's the
Progressive
thing.
metal was on the rise.
There are no. I looked. Okay, through progressive metal and like progressive rock. There are no additional citations to be had for verification. Nobody knows. No, but everybody's like making it up. Okay, like I'm talking like your closest thing to an empirical source is like a Quora article answer, like a Quora question answer, or like a top 10 list where the category is the genre, like progressive rock, and you're looking through it and it's like, okay, that I guess that makes sense. Like Veil of Maya's in there. But they put Slipknot under progressive rock. They probably don't know what they're talking about. And then you go try and find one that just kind of feels more accurate. So this stream is really just more than anything. It's all about raising awareness that we don't have our shit together as a society about these definitions nearly as much as I thought I did. At least on paper. Like when we're playing music or listening to music, I guess we can kind of like...
We generalize.
Generalize. Like I know what a prog sound sounds like, like we heard Shola's music and we were like, okay, progressive, influences,
Yeah.
right? Here's the other problem with progressive metal in particular. Progressive metal, sometimes known as prog metal or technical metal, is a fusion genre melding heavy metal and progressive rock, which combines the loud aggression and amplified guitar-driven sound of the former with the more experimental, cerebral, or quote pseudo-classical compositions of the latter. You hear pseudo-classical and you're like, oh no, what's lumped in with this? Whilst the genre emerged towards the late 1980s, it was not until the 1990s that progressive metal achieved commercial success. And so they list some bands. And then here's the thing, is if you look at their, I lost my, I misclicked. Is it still on the screen? Yeah, okay. If you look into stuff, like gent is under progressive metal as like a subgenre, right? Mm-hmm. Now if you go into, I'll pop that open in a tab because the explanations behind these get like hilarious. I want to say especially the relationship between progressive metal and symphonic metal. So there's a specific paragraph in here that I'm looking for where they kind of... So there's a long, really complicated history here about like exactly what it is. Long story short, if I can find it. Okay, yeah. So it's like, all right, let's just say you read progressive metal, and skimmed it. Now you get a symphonic metal. Okay, symphonic metal is a subgenre of heavy metal music which combines the heavy drums and guitars of metal. Let me make sure I found this spot. Yeah, okay, it's down here. Such as symphonic instruments, choirs, and sometimes the full orchestra. Keyboards reminiscent of power metal are also featured. Symphonic metal bands often feature classically trained vocalists, giving rise to the nickname opera metal or operatic metal. It is not uncommon for them to feature second vocalists performing growls, a more common characteristic of gothic metal. Perhaps the most typical and prominent examples of symphonic metal bands are Dutch bands Epica Within Temptation, Finnish band Nightwish, and Swedish band Therion. So like as we get a little bit into this, the average person, like it doesn't matter too much like if it's symphonic or gothic or progressive, but the average person doesn't listen to like the kind of music that we listen to. That like they don't listen to v-kei or what are the odds that they are specifically into symphonic metal to the point where they're declassifying stuff. But as I had to go into this to figure out, is Versailles neoclassical or are they symphonic metal? Are they just technically progressive metal? Are they power metal? When I read stuff like, oh, Nightwish, the symphonic metal band, as opposed to Nightwish, the gothic metal band, I start getting very like so confused. Is the main thing. Are you just utterly unsurprised by all this? Winona, is that what's going on? Good talk. Winona, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I had muted myself. My bad. But yeah, like I'm not surprised by it because like I understand the difference between gothic metal and symphonic metal, but I guess it's because I kind of just grew up listening to it. um, like if you just hear like straight up goth music, you kind of pick up on what that is as opposed to like what elements they could have taken from a full orchestra to make it symphonic metal.
Yeah. If I jump through here a little bit, it's just like you just lose it. You just start losing the thread. It's like if they're talking about, so this is the musical characteristics of symphonic metal and gothic metal and power metal are an influence, and they talk about the pseudo orchestral sound. And it says it's more difficult to generalize about the guitar and bass work. As with gothic metal, this can often be described as a synthesis of other rock and metal styles, black metal, death metal, power metal, and progressive metal elements being the most common. But unlike gothic metal, elements of classical music are frequently present as well. So it's a little bit more distinct there, I guess. But they just do this throwaway stuff. And if you're wondering why I'm on Wikipedia, like this is the best I got. Like if I like it, otherwise it's I'm on forums and stuff like that. So like it is. Just have to look up progressive. Everywhere they bring progressive metal back up. It's the operatic style is not exclusively tied to symphonic metal and also appears in avant-garde metal, progressive metal, gothic metal, and melodic metal. Okay, so yeah, all right, it's great characteristic quality there. It's the operas and everything. Da, da, da. I think avant-garde metal's even got an even worse definition. It's a subgenre of heavy metal music loosely defined by use of experimentation and innovative avant-garde elements, including non-standard and unconventional sounds, instruments, song structures, playing styles, and vocal techniques. Avant metal is influenced by progressive rock and extreme metal, particularly death metal, and is closely related to progressive metal. Some local scenes include Los Angeles, San Francisco Bay, blah, blah, blah. Characteristics. Avant-garde metal is interchangeable with experimental metal and avant metal, citation needed, and may also refer to a separate genre of atmospheric metal or post-metal. So we're getting into Dim Lim and DID and during great bit. Avant-garde metal is related to progressive metal, but avant-garde metal often has more experimentation, while progressive metal usually has a tighter focus on traditional metal instrumentations and higher levels of technical complexity. That statement reads like an oxymoron to me, because the entire point of progressive metal is to, advance the experimentation beyond the norm, and it just also often includes, that's done through a lot of technical complexity. But then you can't exclusively lock in technical complexity into progressive metal. Because of like what we see in some avant-garde metal music. And it's like, okay, well then that's fine. Then avant-garde metal is clearly a subgenre of progressive metal. It's like, well, no, it's just kind of floating out there and it's loosely related, because we're about like 3 generations of genres, or 2 or 3 generations of genres down, of like crossover genres from like unrelated genres that aren't subgenres of each other. And now it's like, if you try and make a subgenre out of some of these, like it's just kind of out there on its own. So you just have, and you'll find something similar happening with, probably with Gent. Gent's kind of the easiest one. Gent's kind of at the source of progressive metal, I guess. The progressive metal id, the or the mass, what is it, the public conscience of what progressive metal is. They just don't, some people know it, some people don't. Gent as a style is defined by progressive rhythmic and technical complexity accompanied by a dense layer of polyphonic groove. An example is the song CAFO by Tosin Abasi. It typically features heavily distorted, palm-muted guitar chords, syncopated riffs, and polymeters alongside virtuoso soloing. Another common feature is the use of extended range 7-string, 8-string, 9-string guitars. Yeah, that's the great Gent meme where it's 9 strings and you only use the bottom one. So, I mean, that one's like a little bit more straightforward. You can kind of tell it fits under the progressive metal umbrella, I guess. It's the only one that they were able to really list out as a subgenre. But it's just very irritating because it's like if you go to review like an artist like Dimlim, okay, I don't need to put Dimlim in a box. I don't need to put the artist I review in a box. I don't even need to put the album that they review in a box. But I need to be able to accurately describe like the different sounds that they're drawing from, especially with stuff like v-kei, where like it's a bunch of different combinations. So like if I go to describe Vanitas by Dimlim, and there's about like 8 different ways I can describe the different parts of it, that all kind of like technically conflict with each other, or I'm like repeating the same definition a different way, because it's like, it's like I could say, oh, well, it's like progressive metal mixed with like, alt rock or progressive rock or something. And then it's like, oh, well, all of Dimlim is progressive metal. Can I get a little more specific? It's like, well, they do avant-garde metal, so maybe I can describe it that way. And then it's like, well, avant-garde metal is this amorphous thing that has a lot of overlapping things with progressive metal. So when I say progressive metal, what do I really mean? And maybe it takes me like 15 minutes, but then I realize it's like, okay, well, I guess my best bet is, instead of when I say progressive metal, what I should really say is gent, because I'm talking about the sweeping guitar chords and like heavy breakdowns and stuff. And when I say avant-garde metal, I should probably pick the most obtuse parts of it, because it's the most obtusely, vaguely defined genre. So the more out there parts of the music that I used to describe it, the more. So it's like, this is just me. This is me writing a review. This is me like people don't have time for this shit. Like in like, like when they're showing their friends music and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I usually try and bring a solution to the table when I have a problem, but I don't know if I have a solution. Besides, like, can these people try a little bit? Not our fans, not anybody in our not fans of v-kei, not anybody in our groups or anything. But it's just like this is like, who left these people in charge of like, just point out some basic public consciousness
defining
ideas.
the genres.
Yeah, I'm gonna check chat in a second, but I guarantee you it's packed full of people breaking it down and going back and forth and probably coming to a general resolution about stuff in the course of like 30 seconds to 90 seconds, man. Like, so yeah, I call bullshit. In conclusion. What's your side of this? Was it even worth me bringing up, or is resistance that futile? Like no one's gonna do anything about it.
I think that the issue is that the definitions seem super generalized, because it's so just like, how do I put it? It's not. There needs to be more of a TLDR when it's written, because at some point it's like, I don't know how to explain this. It needs to be made more interesting, but to be more interesting, it needs to be more concrete, and it's not concrete enough. But if it were too detailed, it might be too much.
No, I mean, I know what you're trying to say, and what you're saying is right. I guess like I'm trying to think of how to put it, like to reword it.
How
But
to word what I'm trying to say, right?
okay, here's the way I can do it. So in psychology, I guess they have a set of questions called the Big Five, and so they built a personality test called the Big Five personality test. And long story short, when you're doing studies in the area of psychology and you're trying to interview, you know, and you're preparing a list of questions to ask people, the proper way, to like conduct one of those so that you have a general so that you're basically considered trustworthy. It's considered empirical at that point. It's part of like the peer review process. It's like an initial part is you do what's called a factor analysis, which is they have some sort of scientific or logic-based process where they take like 100 different questions, and they try and figure out exactly how many questions you're really asking. Because chances are you might only be asking a few questions many different ways. Because you can ask someone, how tall are you? But then you can also ask someone, if you lay down on the ground, how long would your body be? That's the same question. That's the same answer. But it's asked two different ways. So a factor analysis, for example, like they came up with a scientific process to eliminate that extra stuff to make these, you know, this data and these processes less dense to work with, less like, you know, useless information. And actually the Big Five the Big Five personality test. It's like the 5 different personality traits and a question based on each one. That's in part, I believe, where that came from, is that you can reduce a lot of like I think a majority of like a lot of the questions or a lot of like the things in psychology down to 5 different factors of you know, of psychology and personality. So we kind of need that, but like in like a more casual way, because nobody's ever gonna like they should come up with the metalhead factor analysis for subgenres. Like, I think that would be beautiful, but I don't think anybody's getting paid enough to do that. So, like anywhere in the music industry. Did that make sense at all?
No, yeah, that made sense. I just ended up falling into my own thought process on like, well, they should do that for music, kind of like how you were talking about, just like start to categorize it and then define those categories better. Like, yeah, there are the categories now, but they're not. The general categories are better defined than all the subgenres and the genres that branch off of those. Maybe it just needs to, rather than, but I feel like rather than start to set up like a certain amount of parameters, I think a lot of people are scared of setting up like specific parameters, because then it ends up cutting out or blocking off a lot of songs that you thought were one thing that end up having to be another thing or not fitting in anywhere at all. So that might
Yeah.
be part of why people generalize it, because if they say it's something, they want they want it to sound like there's a lot of songs that are under this genre, when really there's only one song that can really fit that genre, and then everyone else just kind of sort of sounds like it because they're inspired by it or something.
Oh, like fanboys and fangirls that they're like, "Psh, like, guys, no, Bring Me the Horizon's metalcore. Listen, he screams. That counts. You know.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I actually like. I enjoy Bring Me the Horizon's new music, but I know
No,
they
I
get a
do too,
lot of
but
shit
like
from their old fans for that. You know.
for changing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
But
you know,
yeah.
it's the thing that killed rock music, is that kind of attitude. But apparently, it's keeping the metal bands in check in the West, I guess. You know, because they stopped selling out as the internet rose and people doubled down on, you know, their comments because they had comment sections and like
Nah, the shit that kills rock music are the Imagine Dragons and the Maroon Fives of the world. So
yeah. We need to find a time to schedule that, and we could probably like, you know, we could do maybe we can do like a workup stream for that, so that we're not so that we
shit
can.
that kills rock music and rant on that.
No, well, I would put them together, like what killed rock music and how's it coming back.
Okay,
Just do two parts, but I mean, like, you know, maybe we can do it for the patrons or something, where we like a half hour beforehand we just kind of we get on a call and we just kind of rant about it, and then we kind of will probably be settled and more organized, because since we want to make it a VKH live and not an after hours. I don't know, but I'll talk to you about that when we're
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on what killed rock music and how it can come back. So
yeah, I want to just like I want to let you loose, but like what I want to like, you know, I want to open your Sprite bottle like and
yeah,
let it come out, and then like just let you pour out the rest of it, you know.
yeah. This time I don't have to explain what visual kei is to everyone every time I talk about what's wrong with rock music today. So
Yeah, because our audience is woke.
yeah, it ties together. Everything ties together. I told Jeff what I think is the metaphor for rock music right now, and I guess like it's the history of Marilyn Manson, history of Kiss, the history of all those like legendary bands, and I guess in our genre it would just be X Japan. Like what they're going through right now is a metaphor for what rock music is going through right now.
David B for rock and music and anime says they say that grunge killed metal.
Grunge killed metal. Metal.
Well, I think
We're
in
trying
the
to.
2010s, metal's like, well, who's laughing now? You know, like,
Yeah,
but
I think
I
metal's
wouldn't be
okay.
surprised if it did. Maybe like grunge killed the old kind of metal, like the oldies metal. I say oldies, like the 90s and 80s.
Tin can metal,
Tin can metal,
Metallica metal. Like,
Metallica metal.
well,
Yeah.
Metallica was good for its day, but if have you heard any of Metallica's new stuff? Like, it's like the high production value kind
Oh
of
yeah, it's
cancels
trash,
out.
right?
No, like it's the high production value that ruined them because the shit production value that they had, like it wasn't shit back then, but now when you look at it, it's like it's improved so much. But the production value they had back then was like awesome for the kind of music they were producing. But then they kind of hung on so hard to their style of music because, you know, metalheads can tend to be super elitist and never want their bands to change for the times. And because of that, now their style of music doesn't fit with the production that with the high quality production that they
And there
can
are
do.
so many bands that are like that
Yeah.
now. That's why I almost wonder if the Gazette possibly. I'm not saying that they absolutely could have been a band that benefited from that, because they have benefited from high quality production value. But that producer they were supposed to work with, the big name guy,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah. The guy who
they did
worked
it
with
for
Lamb of
Falling,
God.
and then for the Falling PV, but then like they weren't able to, so they did their own production, and so the album's like pretty raw and stuff. I almost feel
Yeah.
like they dodged a bullet with that, because if you go back through like all the different Japanese rock and metal bands that guy's worked with, you can see
The
a
little
pattern.
muffled and stuff, right?
You
Yeah.
can see a pattern where it either works out or it does not work out.
Yeah, like didn't that guy work with Vamps? It worked out
hmm
really well for Vamps, but that's because they sound like Aerosmith with electronic elements. Like
Yeah,
it's
Vamp's problem
basically
isn't
it.
that like they can't get their sound right. They're
No,
trying to flesh
Vamps
that
has
out. It's they
been
sound too
having their
much like,
yeah.
you know, what he knows how to work with. You know.
Yeah, and then with the Gazette, it's like they've had their sound right, but they always change their sound. So it's like then they might end up getting pigeonholed like Crossfaith did.
Yeah, Crossfaith got really pigeonholed. I think that was just
Super
the hit
hard
they had to take in order to do a bunch
to
of
become who they
experimentation.
are now.
Yeah, no, seriously, because it was very
Yeah.
obvious from the album. It's like, we want to try, you know, they're not just a metalcore band, you know, they call themselves future metal. So they're like trying to push their sound
They're
to the
just trying
next
to stay like
step.
10 steps ahead of everybody right now, which makes it hard because not everyone's a visionary. They need a producer who's a visionary.
Yeah, and that album was like a sampler of like everything, every like hard rock and heavy metal genre. Like like some of it was their own sound that they were trying again, and then they had like Wildfire, that party song. They had the song with the Beartooth vocalist that sounded like a Motionless in White song. Then they had a Bullet for My Valentine kind of inspired song. They had they had a Linkin Park inspired song. So it was all over the place. But now you look at them. Now they're on their next album, and they followed up that Xeno, which was the previous album, with like a bunch of singles where they wildly experimented and pushed through it and powered through it. And this album that they have out now is fantastic. And they were able to recapture like the intensity from their old music, but like keep the versatility from Xeno. So it's literally like and it flows much better. And they're just like really in a really good spot now. But I think when it came down to, we're a metal band and we usually do metalcore, and now we want to experiment with stuff, and they came to the West, like the only option they had was, well, you're gonna make like a rip-off album, this album, that's what you're doing. like I don't know, man, like it's and it's not like they're the only band that went through a phase like this, It almost does really seem to me like it's like they're just like, well, we'll take that hit and we'll make the best of it that we can. Because I'll tell you what, if Motionless in White had done what Crossfaith tried to do with Xeno, they kind of did with this last album, and it's very cringe. That like a lot of the Motionless in White's newest album is really cringe. They actually did go through. They are going through a similar phase right now.
Which one was their new album?
That was the one that had Loud on it and Rats and
The Graves one.
It's my party and I'll die when I want to. Like, oh man, I cut my wrist with all that edge you got there, Motionless in White. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the Graveyard Shift album. That's what that was.
Yeah, I listened to it, but I used to listen to it as an adrenaline pumping band, and now it's a guilty pleasure emo band. Like,
hard rock horror is what they are right now. So, yay. I mean, I really liked, what album was it? I liked Reincarnate. That was a great album from them.
That was an achievement, man. Like,
yeah, that was a beautiful album.
And that's the thing, is that the album that preceded Xeno from Crossfaith was an achievement. Apocalypse, that was like, I understand why they went and made Xeno, because you are not getting a better electronicore album than Apocalypse. Like if you want a full 100% cover, like first track to last track, it's all true electronicore. Electronic music mixed with metalcore. Like not hardcore, not this, not some trap and stuff. Like electronic music, like in a general sense, mixed with full on metalcore. You're not getting a better album than Apocalypse by Crossfaith. I don't think ever. In my opinion, like, so then when they came out with, so that when they did Xeno, I was like, well, yeah, it's like, what do you want? Like, you want them to just remake the last album they did? Like there's only so much they can do in like, a niche crossover genre like that. So, yeah, Motionless in White's Reincarnate, I really enjoyed. So it's weird. It's weird seeing like
it's the Growing Pains releases, man.
There's been a lot of bands that have spent the last few years doing Growing Pains releases.
A lot of Growing Pains releases, man. Just when they make those achievements, it takes a lot so they can keep growing. Otherwise, that's it. It's either they make Growing Pains releases, or at that point they just say, well, we're going to go on hiatus, and they pull Death Gaze,
Yeah. I don't want to rag on a band for changing their style, but if I don't like their direction, I just can't. I mean, that's just objectively true. Like, if you're not into it, like you can't. So yeah, I wouldn't ever force yourself to like chew through an album that's just like if the Gazette made a country album, I'd be out.
I'd be 100% out.
I
Because
would be
there
out.
is actually, no, wait, there's actually a band called the Gazette that is a country band.
The one exception might be whatever that Southern metal is that they play during the Sons of Anarchy TV series, like in the intro and the outro. That shit is hella badass, but it's like I couldn't sit through a whole album of it. I don't think it's too.
Too much.
Metallica killed Metallica.
The one exception for me is what is it? Heavy is the Head, right? Yeah, that song. Zach Brown Band. It's the only song I listen to from them. Everything else I can't sit through.
And the producer I was referring to is Josh Wilbur. Thank you for reminding me, Asuka.
We always
slipped my mind.
We always forget his name.
If you fear backlash or emotional fan rage, in parentheses mob, keep it to yourself and personally reach out instead, like fan mail. Oh wait, I think they're having a different conversation in the chat.
They're not responding to you, Jeff. You're old news.
No, I'm just doing the thing where I just blurt out a bunch of words on the After Hours stream, and it gets people talking about something, like
Things.
and then we see where it goes.
Just ramble, see where it goes, see where it leads us.
I used to feel like that was weird, but then I noticed that there's a lot of the streams that I listen to that are long form. They start with the topic in the title, and then just everything else is a free for all, totally based on just the natural flow of conversation. So I was like, oh, this is just the average effort that a YouTube streamer actually puts into a live stream is what we're doing on the bonus on the less dressed up After Hours stream. So I stopped feeling bad. Gazette goes Enka. I would do Gazette goes.
I don't think
Angura
Gazette goes Enka. No, I think Rookie goes Enka.
Rookie goes Enka, and it's like trap Enka.
No. It's because like look at all the vocalists that have gone Enka. Freaking Seth from Wadimol went Enka on his own.
From Doubt had his Enka pop project.
Yeah, everyone's doing Enka. There's one other VK artist that's doing Enka. I can't remember his name. So there's three VK vocalists that have gone Enka. I wouldn't put it past Rookie to go Enka.
I've said it before, and I will always say it. If the Gazette ever wants to put out like a dubstep EP for the fuck of it, I'm fine with it. It can just be like Rookie and Uraha, like they're like those are the two main ones. If that's all that contributes to it, and put it out under the Gazette, I don't care. I will listen to that.
Let's put out a self-remixed album like Gact did, and just see what happens. Just be like apartment remix of Vortex, and then we'll just all have a dance party, I guess, with a less turned up version of Vortex.
It's interesting. Oh, Vortex is absolutely like a kind of a song.
It's a banger.
Yeah. They could just do electronic rock, like that Blue Stolly thing that I compared Crossfade to.
Just rip off everything they've done before and just make them regular rock and roll.
Oh, maybe I'll just go brag about that. That's some content, right? Let me just go brag about how right I am about Crossfaith always.
Oh my gosh. Be like, well, I was right again. No, don't do that.
I mean, well, I'll show you because I made a comparison in a review that I was like consciously like, well, this is a little out there if it happens to be false because I'm showing a music video from like a non-Japanese band comparing it to them. But it turned out to be the polar opposite. I was 1,000% correct. So I'm going to gloat a little bit, Maybe I'll just do that. Where's my Twitter?
Because it was what was it? Blue Stolly.
Mm-hmm. All of that.
And they ended up having Blue Stolly in one of their songs.
Remixing the song I compared to his. Like, nailed it. Stuck the landing.
Jeez. I
Here we
mean,
go.
I think, what was it today? Jeff finally, well, no, it was yesterday. You finally realized the whole thing with the Gazette and using Remedy from Seether. And then you started pointing out a bunch of other songs that had iconic guitar riffs in them.
Yeah. Uh, the Silence by Desert was what I tagged you in. They use the but that
Yeah.
Radiohead does in Creep. They'd use that
Yeah.
in the Silence.
Ant,
It
Antlion
was very subtle,
Pit
so
from
I didn't catch it at first. Like I didn't realize
Ant,
I heard it, but I didn't comprehend what was going on. So
yeah, and Antlion Pit from Gilgamesh uses what's the name of that band? Another prog band. Can't remember the name right now.
yeah,
Kill
and
me.
then Death Gaze. um, but we won't. I guess it's
Dorella's Death Gaze. Just
that's a no, well, yeah, but yeah,
Dorella's Death.
at least Darrell is ripping off their own music at that point. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. I is ripping off his own music at that
it
point.
doesn't matter. They sounded
Right.
too good. I loved them regardless. Death Gaze 5 ever. Okay. Yeah, I just said comparisons can definitely be drawn between Wipeout and electronic rock artists like Blue Stolly. If you guys ever want to go down an interesting rabbit hole, you could check out electronic rock music. Blue Stolly is like the hotter new version of it. I think like the guy that's most known is like Cell Dweller. It's the kind of music that you hear in Call of Duty trailers, is where it started. So it's like heavy dubstep and also like chugging rock a little bit. And then artists like Blue Stolly kind of they either it's jumping back and forth between they're either using electronic guitars or they're generating an electronic guitar sound digitally. And they're either using organic drums or they're using but most often they're using like a drum machine or electronic drums that someone played that just sound like a beat. But the overall sound, it sounds really compressed and slick. So it's like, it seems less harsh to people that don't listen to rock music that often. So it comes off, it like slides under their radar a little bit. Like it slides under their threshold so they can hear the guitars and all the fun rock attitude, but like it's not so grating and loud because I guess like the power chords or whatever they're using are muted, and then they're coated in like silky smooth synth music sometimes and stuff like that. So I compared the single version of Wipeout that Crossfaith had to that because it was very produced and like very distorted, very like obviously trying to kind of like make that sound as lean and like as digestible as possible. Oh, by the way, Winona, update on Wipeout. They did a album version of Wipeout instead of the single version, and they changed a lot of that. I think it sounds a lot better. It like sounds fuller.
Album version instead of the single version. That's right. Yeah, they did. I heard it.
Did it sound like a little bit less concerning, less alarming?
Less. Oh no, and yeah,
Well,
it
yeah,
did. It did.
They kind of loosened up on the hyper distortion and stuff, I think. But yeah, so I said it could be drawn directly to Wipeout and electronic and Blue Stolly. And there's a song called Armageddon that's actually really catchy, but it sounds a lot like Wipeout. I'm just saying like that's the same. I don't think they copied them or anything like that. That's not where I'm going with this, but it was worth pointing out in the review because he comes at it from like Blue Stolly's coming at it from from like being a DJ that likes rock music, and Crossfaith is coming at it from being a metal band that digs like
What's
futuristic
electronic
music. Yeah, so they kind of they've arrived at the same type of music but from opposite angles. So that's the main reason I was bringing it up. But then I go to write up our article about Ex Machina, which is the album that they've got out, the limited edition. CD number 2 is a Wipeout remix by Blue Stolly. So yeah, 6 months ahead of time basically. My Jeff was right tip jar stays full. Yeah. Let's see where we at. What's chat saying? Have you heard of Hexaco? They came up with one more to add to the big five. No, but that's interesting. That's a hell of a, of a claim to attempt. So I'll look into it. I'm curious. I'm still trying to learn and remember all the big five. I don't know. I just read psychology hyper casually. On the Japanese wiki for Dead End, one of the genres listed is prog rock. No. Do you listen to Dead End much?
Dead End?
Yeah.
That's Maury's band.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that prog rock?
I don't listen to too much Dead End, but I listen to Maury.
Well, here's our use case. Let's look up progressive rock on Wikipedia. Here's our example. Progressive rock, shortened as prog, sometimes called art rock, classical rock, or symphonic rock. What the fuck? Yeah, I remember this.
Guess.
I was looking up Ireland. I was like, well, what's the definition for symphonic rock? Because if Versailles is like symphonic metal or something like that, then something like Versailles, then Ireland has to be... oh shoot, what happened? Where did I... oh no, I'm there. Then Ireland has to be symphonic rock. And it was just like, oh no, it's... Yeah. So Ireland is progressive rock and art rock and classical rock and symphonic rock. So it's a broad genre of music that develops in the United Kingdom and the United States. Initially termed progressive pop, the style. I don't know what else. Additional elements contribute to its progressive label. This is why you don't have artists categorize things and build systems. I'm sorry. You got to leave it to us engineers, man. This is like contributed to its progressive label. The lyrics were more poetic. Technology was harnessed for new sounds. So like all these vibes. And then it's like, that's my system. It's like, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be too much of a dick, but like, it's
Are you? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, yes, I am. I am trying to be too much of a dick. I had to self-assess for a second to double check, so that's not a good sign. Fusions of style, approaches and genres. Asuka says lyrics have nothing to do with genre. I mean, that's gonna screw up a lot of these Wikipedia articles, Asuka. So you tell them, not me. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. I would use that, like, bring up lyrics if I'm describing a scene, but not like the codified genre itself or whatever. No hard feelings. Yeah, no, we're just fucking around on here. Thanks for joining, by the way. First time seeing you in chat, David. Happy to have you. I don't know who told you the secret. I keep telling people this is a secret stream, but once you're in, you're in. So I guess that's fine.
Yeah, some secret stream. It gets posted everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can wrap up. This was mostly just us kind of shooting the shit, and I did kind of want to rant about progressive rock and the genre bullshit thing. It's kind of like a nerdy it's nerdy. It's music nerd problems, I guess. Maybe I can try and get in contact with Anthony Fantano. Like, can you teach me how to make a funny, memeable 7-minute video to get all my thoughts together on this?
Oh my gosh.
So we reached no conclusion, Jeff. The conclusion is that there's a problem with the status quo and you need to rise up and rebel and resist. I don't know.
I don't know if that's the conclusion, Jeff.
No, it is. There's one problem with the system, so we need to burn it all down.
Okay.
That's the solution. That's what Twitter told me. That's what postmodernism told me.
Oh God.
I guess the solution is just try harder, I guess. I mean, we can address it ourselves, as we continue to talk about like our genres and stuff, or the genres that are covered by our music. Because I mean, technically, the second part of all the listing off of the different examples of visual-kei, where we talk about genres, it kind of doubles as a pretty decent like consensus definition of those genres. And I built that up using like the best like union of all the like definitions that could agree with each other. And then Winona came in and like simplified it a lot, like she was talking about. So there's that.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, do you mean in our?
For the visual-kei crash course.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing we need more of.
Are we so niche that it would be presumptuous for us to start lecturing other people on how to properly do genres, or can we get away with that?
I think
maybe that's what our Medium account can be for, if we get a Medium account.
Lecture people on how to do things right.
Well, yeah. I mean, we are covering like I'm going to stereotype this because it's pretty true. We're covering like a kind of music from an Asian culture, and it's very accomplished and thought out just in general. Like, so I'm just like, compared to like what we're dealing with over here, where it's just like, I don't know, I don't care.
It's a mess.
Violins, it's progressive.
It's not our problem.
Yeah.
It's our country, but it's not our problem.
Well, it became my problem. That's the problem. Like, it became my problem when I was trying to describe Dimlim's music, because I'm writing the review for them.
Yeah, that sucks.
And Dimlim's kind of the latest in the line of bands like Durengra and Deviloof that's going to have a high amount of crossover between like Western, just your average metal fan that's like doesn't really see borders when it comes to metal. And so they check out the occasional Japanese band, and then like the visual-kei fan, so I have to kind of bolster up my terminology a little bit and get a little bit more concrete, because I know it's going to go out to some people that are going to like really like really put it under cross-examination. That happens sometimes. Compared to like visual-kei fans, where it can kind of convey feelings and like get a general vibe across, because if you're neck deep in visual-kei music, you kind of have given up on genre definitions a lot, but at the same time you kind of know what you're looking for, and you just don't know how to describe it. So I can kind of do that thing. Prog metal and prog rock doesn't even have to feature keyboards. Yeah, see, that's what I thought. Look at Lacrima Christi and some Siam Shade. Stares at Queen. Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, that's my thank you for indulging me, chat, with my little self-indulgent rant. I just wanted to get that out. Visual-kei is very hard to describe. Yes, but I do think we did a good job making it easier to describe. We reduced it down to a crash course. So it's kind of a long article.
I send that to everyone I know.
Yeah, but I think it did a really good job. I was happy with what it came up with. And we were there for all of the research that went into it. We streamed the entire 7-hour process of categorizing. It's an
8-hour process.
An 8-hour process, I guess, like of categorizing and listing out everything. It was me, Winona, and Shiro in the chat, and Asaka was there. Asaka was there throwing in information. I think maybe a couple other reviews might have been, we ultimately we got to a decent consensus, and then we we did the last 10% offline, and then after we had like our final list and characterizations, we had to spend another 8 hours researching proper definitions of visual kei subcultures and music subgenres, because we listed out examples. So people could just be like, Iriguro kei, okay, look, the Kinky by Dataroma. That makes sense. Alternative metal.
It was a fun time.
It was fun, but it was like, man, it was a lot of work.
It was a fun time.
Yeah, but it's good. It's okay.
Oh my
You contributed
God, there
to
are
culture.
fireworks. Why the fuck are there fireworks?
Well, thank you for clarifying.
No,
this is important. You do live in New York. We do have to clarify.
No,
and I live in Miami, so any gunshot sounds, we need to immediately clarify what it is, so people aren't worried
No, I
about
literally looked out the window and it was fireworks, and I'm like, why? It's September. I don't understand. Oh my
Labor
gosh,
Day.
yes. There's.
I guess.
Oh, fuck. Okay, yeah.
Who celebrates Labor Day, though? You celebrate Labor Day by sleeping in.
Yeah, well, it was fireworks, so yeah. Always.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and sign off. Thanks for being with us, chat. So now we are officially closing out Labor Day weekend. Like it's done in 4 minutes. So we're right at midnight. So yeah, thanks so much, guys, for watching the different streams. It was really cool to see some of you guys like go from stream to stream to stream in the chat and everything. That was really cool. So yeah. I pushed myself pretty hard this weekend to try and like see, exactly how much content I can get out, how much I can coordinate. So I always appreciate you guys tagging along and helping me try this stuff out. I think the next goal for the future, though, is to start scheduling these things out further ahead of time, and so that when it comes time to execute them, they just go off really fast. That wasn't really an opportunity for me in August because my schedule in August was royally fucked. But hopefully it should be an option moving forward. Some of you who are in some of these streams may have noticed I've been collecting feedback and data and dropping hints for you guys about upcoming streams, and that's because I am already working on like next weekend's streams. So we're looking like we're in a good position moving forward. So yeah. Winona, you want to say goodbye? You got anything else to say?
I don't know. Okay. Bye, guys. I don't know when you'll see me next. Legit, I have no idea when you'll see me next.
Yeah. Winona's still a little bit in flux. I think her craziness is still in progress. I guess. Declining, but in progress, I want to say.
School's going to start on Wednesday, and I'm still finishing unpacking and doing additional side projects that I swear will be fire. Just look out for them when I get cleared, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know when you'll see me next. If I'm here, it's a miracle.
You know what we could do? We could do spontaneous if our viewers are like up for it, or like are just like say la vie if they miss it or not. You can just call me if you're like you're at a point and you're like, hey, I'm awake and I'm feeling okay and I got like 20
I'm
minutes.
Alive.
Just do spontaneous streams with Winona. Like
yeah, I'm down if they're down. Is everyone down?
Call it like a lightning strike stream or something.
Just be down with the sickness and go.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can duck out and, once I get Streamlabs more integrated, like I'm going to get my own PC for this stuff. And so then I can download the more big boy version of this shit I use. I can like really just run the whole show from my phone. So if we do get at a point where it's a very noticeable Winona deficit for like a few months, we can kind of... We can start just like airlifting you, like parachuting you in for 20 minutes and then like
just like save me from whatever I'm
going
through.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds probable.
Sound good, chat? I hope you're not tired from all the talking. No. We sound like that kid's book where they say goodnight to everything. Yeah, that's apps. I've had that problem
Good night,
since a
moon.
kid.
You
Good
hate
night. Good night,
nothing wrong with
moon. Good night,
moon.
chat. Good night, bad genre definitions. Good night, anime avatar. All right, I'll talk to you.
Nothing wrong
We'll
with
talk to
good
you guys
night, moon.
later. Peace out.
Bye, guys.